I almost lost my life because of a job. After graduating from junior college, I didn't find a job for a long time, and all the resumes I sent out were lost. Shin Fan? I'm the May supervisor of the COVID department, and I've seen your resume before. Do you have time for an interview? I was surprised by the call because I hadn't sent them a resume. Desperately need a job to make ends meet. I was determined to try my luck. The interview took place in the middle of nowhere, on the outskirts of the city. It is an old-fashioned apartment building. You need to transfer to 2 buses. The greenery is good. It's a pity it's too desolate. There are hardly any pedestrians on the road. The interviewer's name is Zhao Guang, was the property manager of this apartment. About 40 years old, no short stature. The expression is serious. After taking a seat, we chatted a little. Basic information about me. I'm figuring out how to introduce myself. Zhao Guang changed his words. I asked about my place of origin and birthday. Accurate to the day. A quarter of an hour. I was a little surprised. What a work unit of this. Don't have academic qualifications. Don't look at work experience. Just look at the 8 characters of the birthday. Get my exact date of birth. He left for a moment. Half an hour later, he walked back in. Say, congratulations. The interview has been passed. Security guard. The monthly salary is 4,000. Internship for 3 months. You are in charge of the night shift. Take 60% of the salary. Guarantee trial lawsuit. Break the rest of your livelihood. Thought about it. Still signed a contract. Zhao Guang proposed. Take me to the dorm. During climb, he admonished. The night shift is at 9 p.m. By 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, Ration, you're going to stay in the duty room. You can't go out without permission. Other than that, the old people in the community are afraid of noise. So after 11 o'clock, you have to lock the door. No one is allowed to enter or leave. I said yes. But it feels strange in my heart. The dormitory is on the 4th floor. Nice environment. Although only 1 sight and 1 hearing. But Sheng is clean and tidy. Clean up the room. I moved in very quickly. 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. I just laid down not long ago. I heard it outside the apartment building. A little girl's cry was heard. The apartment was dead silent in the early hours of the morning. The cry was particularly clear. I got up and pulled the door open. Get ready to see what happens. It's strange to say. The moment the door is pushed, the cry was gone. I suspect it's the wind. Ignored. Close the door again and go to bed. But not long after, the staccato cry, and passed in along the crack in the door, tossed me most of the time. 7 p.m. the next day. I ran to the duty room early. There's a dry, skinny old man, sitting on the steps smoking. This old man's surname is Liu. It's a colleague who is in charge of arranging shifts. Explain the precautions for changing shifts. He changed his clothes and was leaving. Him be left at the time of departure. Suddenly it was weird. Glanced at me. Muttered. So young. It's a pity. I'm confused. It's a pity to ask him something. It's a pity that old man Liu is very fast. The cigarette went far away. Look at his departing back. I mean with a wry smile. Maybe I don't like me. Young. Choose a career as a security guard. The first day at work was peaceful. Just after 11 o'clock, I closed the curfew. Lean back in your chair and take a nap. The second half of the night, the little girl's cry came again. For a week, I could hear it all the time. It made me suspect that I was mentally ill. Until the 8th day of work, I actually met a little girl. It was the 13th. I was sitting on duty playing on my phone. Outside, there was a fluffy banging sound. I straightened up. See outside the door towel. Standing one. Little girl in a red dress. Yuan is 6 or 7 years old. The weather was bad that night. It's drizzling. The little girl's clothes were soaking wet. The face is very pale. Uncle, please look at the door. I'm going in to find Daddy. I hesitated. After all, I was told by the light. After 11 o'clock, no one is allowed to enter. But look at the little girl in the rain. I can't bear it. I pressed the access button. Ask her whose child she is. Why are you still outside so late? The little girl answered the question. By default, you raise your foot to step over the curfew. Then the eyes are empty, staring straight in one direction on the second floor. Muttered in his mouth. People who live in 203. But there are 2 days left. He's obviously a kid, but the voice is old-fashioned. A big little face. It's a bit stiff. I frowned. Little sister. What did you say? She still didn't answer. Eyes fixed on 203's window. I watched it for about 10 seconds before walking into the community. This kid is weird. I stared at her back for a moment. Shake your head and sit back and continue to nap. 8 o'clock the next morning. Old man Lu came over, changed shifts. Gently shake me awake. What a blessing. You can sleep more in this kind of place. He said something strange, but I slept in a daze, too lazy to bother. Leave the duty room. Get ready to go upstairs to catch up on sleep. Zhao Guang jumped out of nowhere. I handed over a cigarette very familiarly. Jinfan, been here for a week. Let's get used to it. I smiled and said it was okay. It's the middle of the night. Total feeling apartment building. There was a girl crying. It's noisy. That's right. There was also a little girl who came to look for her father last night. Crying before. It can't be this girl. I finished asking questions one after another. I found Zhao Guang's ass. It was as if it had been hit by a high-voltage line. I tensed all over. You're not going to put people in, are you? I'm right. What's wrong? Not much. After 11 o'clock. Just don't open the door. His tone was stiff. Hurried away. It seems to be avoiding this topic. I thought, it's just a small episode. But it turns out, I kept it simple. On the morning of the 15th, I accompanied a few buddies to play black games. I was dizzy in the afternoon. Until 9:30 in the evening, I hurried to the shift. Why are you late? Just entered the duty room. I heard old man Lu complaining. Don't doze off tonight. The funeral home is coming. I was stunned. Ask him what is the matter. Old man Lu glanced at me and said, You don't know yet. The owner who lived in 203 died. I was shocked. Tell me what the hell is going on. I heard it was this guy. Boiled chicken soup in the kitchen. As a result, the chicken broth spilled. Put out the fire. The gas was always on. Wait for a neighbor to smell the gas before rushing in. This man. It's gone. After old man Lu left, I pondered it. I always feel like I can't get close. I thought about it for a long time. My head chuckled. Recalled 2 days ago. That little girl. On the 13th, she once said, 203 people live. There are only 2 days left. It just so happens that today is the 15th. It can't be that coincidental. This thought made me trance-like for a long time, until the funeral home's car room comes. Stop outside the door. Honk the horn for a long time. I just snapped a wit. Hurriedly ran over to open the door. For a few days, I've been thinking about it. I was very upset. Until a few days later, I met that again. A little girl looking for a daddy. Late that night, it's still raining. I was playing on my phone in the duty room. That's when the little girl appeared. wearing that red dress, standing alone in the rain. Uncle, trouble opened the door. I was depressed. After all, who is this child? Why did I run to the bridge gate in the middle of the night every time? I was reluctant. After all, it was last time. It made me feel a pimple in my heart. Feel this kid. It's a bit of an evil sect. See, I didn't move. He didn't rush either. Actually standing in the rain. Consumed with me. The rain is getting heavier and heavier. I'm afraid I'll break this kid. I had to surrender. I pressed the button to open the door. The curfew just opened. The little girl stepped in. It's still that empty expression. Where do they speak? Look up at the sky. I said. It's raining outside. Do you want to come in and hide? He didn't answer either. Silence for a moment, and he stretched out his little hand again. Point to the third floor of the apartment. 301 people. There are 4 days left. What? I was sweating. It's not calm to say. Don't scare your uncle. What are the 4 days left? He shook his head numbly. He began to reach out towards the community again. You wait. I hurried out of the duty room. I'm going to stop him. Ask for clarification. He suddenly turned back. A grin. The smile was cold. You don't feel the temperature at all. I froze straight there. The heart said that the little girl laughed. Why is it so mad? It's better not to laugh. Wait for me to react. She was no longer visible. My intuition unstruck me. The next day, I began to notice the man who lives in 301. His name is Zheng Yong. It's an electrician. 9 o'clock in the morning every day, we'll go out with a toolbox. Return to the compound around 6 p.m. Every time I go home, I carry a bottle of liquor upstairs. Barely Thunderbolt. I kept an eye on him for 3 days. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. This guy has an extremely regular schedule. God is strong in weight. No disease, no planting. In addition to liking to drink, no bad habits. It doesn't look like it's about to die. Until the afternoon of the 26th, I've been watching him for 4 days in a row. Saw him coming home from work again. Carry the liquor you just bought upstairs. I just felt how naive I was. For an unfounded guess, I've been busy for so long. It's really boring. Never mind. If you buy a pack of cigarettes, change them. I smiled wryly and shook my neck. Prepare to go to the commissary to buy cigarettes. Just walked out of the apartment not far away. I heard a bang in the hallway. Then someone shouted. Zhang Yong had an accident. Hit 120. What the situation? I was inexplicably terrified. Supposedly, it won't be such a coincidence. Hurriedly ran up the stairs. Just ran up to the second floor. My face turned white with a brush. Zhang Yong was lying on the stairs and turning his feet. There was blood all over the neck. A glance at the limbs. Look. No more. On his face and neck, filled with a large number of glass shards. I almost went crazy. Hurry up and grab a big brother who is watching the excitement. Ask him what happened. This guy is unlucky enough, too. I fell while climbing the stairs just now. Roll straight from the third floor to the second floor. It stands to reason that he is so physically strong. Even if you fall, it's fine. The bad is the bad. When Zhang Yong wrestled, he was also carrying a bottle of liquor in his hand. A broken wine bottle, shattered to pieces on the spot, and then into his neck. In the end, Zhang Yong did not come back. I heard that this guy was due to excessive blood loss. Didn't wait to be carried into the hospital. He died on the way. After hearing the news, I was completely confused. It's as if you've been struck by an electric current. Frightened, I trotted home with a puff of smoke. Close the door as fast as you can. Put your back against the wall. It took a long time to calm down. I was really scared stupid. This little girl is too evil. The following days, I've been living in fear and crawling backwards. I'm afraid that the little girl will appear again. Say I didn't save a few days. Good for a long time. The apartments were all calm. The little girl never reappeared. Gradually, I thought it was all over. Until the appearance of the third rainy night. I remember it vividly. It was October 15th, the day of payroll. I spent the whole afternoon at the supermarket, bought a lot of daily necessities. Because I was carrying too many things. After I left the supermarket, I took a taxi. I also chatted with the driver's eldest brother for a while, learned where I worked. It's actually in the Starlight community. The driver's eldest brother was surprised. Said, "Lad, you're so fat." I'm wondering, so he asked what was wrong. Said the driver, "Everyone in this city knows it. This neighborhood is very evil. A lot of people pass by, and they have to take a detour." I chuckled inwardly. Ask him why he is evil. The driver couldn't answer. Shanshan scratched her head and smiled. I'm also hearsay. Anyway, the place is said to be not very good. These words made me feel uncomfortable for a long time. It rained again that night. Listen to the sound of rain outside the window. It makes me more and more uneasy. Sure enough, just after the wee hours of the morning, the little girl in the red dress, again. You can't imagine how scared I had to be. With the appearance of the little girl, my kidneys twitched straight away. It's different from what it used to be. This time she didn't clamoring to come in. Just standing in the rain, separated by a layer of glass, he stared at me coldly. Those eyes that have no temperature. It makes my heart furious. I don't know how much courage I mustered. I had the courage to say to him, "What are you doing again? Go ahead. Who will be unlucky this time? I'm here for you." He used only one sentence. It crushed the courage I had so hard to build. You have 7 days left. What? At that moment, I was like an early accumulation. Didn't stand firm. I almost fell to the ground. Wait for the little girl to leave. I put my back directly on the root of the wall. There was a buzzing in my head. Too scared to think. I don't remember that night, how I got through it. Didn't wait for old man Lu to come over and hand over the shift. It's just dawn. I hurried into Zhao Guang's office, yelling to leave. Zhao Guang was surprised. Wait for me to send some nerves. I had to stammer, explain the reason. Who knows? After listening to what I have to say, Zhao Guang smiled. What about Shan Fan? How old you are? I would be superstitious about such a thing. Which little girl is not mentally normal? You take her word for it. It's ridiculous. I'm having a hard time. You mean, you know her? Of course I do. Zhao Guang got up slowly, pressed me to the seat. Her name is Xiao Yu. I live in Huanghua village next door. It is less than 3 kilometers from the apartment. And if you don't believe it, there is a chance. I can show you there. I asked Zhao Guang. Say what is going on. Zhao Guang sighed first. Go on. The girl was born into a single-parent family. The mother has a familial history of hereditary psychiatric illness. That's why I always get sick every once in a while. Almost every time I get sick, I come to the apartment. Say something godlike. Don't talk about you. Almost everyone who lives in an apartment. She cursed them. That's it. Not new at all. I was stunned. Seeing that I was still terrified, Zhao Guang took a cup of hot water for me, said with a smile. Youngster, don't be so superstitious. I don't even know what to say about you. Come on. I still have work to deal with. I'm not going to talk to you about it. Let's do it here with peace of mind. Wait for the probationary period to pass. I applied with the company. I'll give you a little bit of treatment. Brother Xiao, What else do I want to ask? But Zhao Guang was very impatient. It's like driving away flies. Pushed me out of the office. Let me not bother her with these boring things. No way. I had to go back. You can go back on the way. I thought about it. I still don't think it's right. Let's not talk about it. Did the girl live in Huanghua Village? It doesn't matter if she's mentally ill or not. At least. Both prophecies were accurate. Two owners who died before. Although the way to die is different. No exceptions. It's all in little girls. And died after making a prophecy. The date of their death was exactly the same as the little girl's prediction. This is no mere coincidence. Secondly, Zhao Guang's reaction also made me feel abnormal. I remember the first time I talked to him about little girls. He was excited. It's like eating me. How did I completely change my breath today? The more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong. Bet that Zhao Guang must have something to hide from me. I didn't rush to sleep when I got back to my room. Instead, he leaned on the window. Keep an eye on his every move in the office. Throughout the day, Zhao Guang stayed in the office all the time. On the surface, nothing out of the ordinary. It's a pity to look at it. There's still something wrong. He always bowed his head from time to time, go through the drawers in the office, as if looking for something in a drawer. After a while, he closed the drawer again. I have a lot on my mind, pacing back and forth in the office. This unusual detail caught my attention. 9 o'clock in the evening. I didn't run to duty. Instead, took advantage of the night. Sneaky. Repatriated to Zhao Guang's office. The windows are unlocked. I easily climbed through the window and climbed in. Then pinch your hands and feet. Run to the desk. I didn't find out until I got closer. There was a lock hanging on the drawer. What is so important? It has to be locked up. I simply put my heart on the side. Grabbed the fruit knife on the table. Picked the lock vigorously. After more than 10 minutes of busy work, I finally picked the lock. I go to the sweat on my forehead. Pull the drawer open. In a drawer, the horse has a stack of papers. I just took the file out, white placed on the table. Looked through them one by one. Soon after, a couple of old newspapers sandwiched in the middle caught my eye. Wait until I'm patient. Read the contents of the newspaper thoroughly. I was so scared that I was convulsed. Front page pages of 3 old newspapers. 3 separate items are recorded. Bizarre violent deaths. There was not a single violent death. They share a common identity. It's all the same as me. It was here. Straight overnight shifts. Look at the information in the newspaper. I got goosebumps. A chill hits, cold from head to toe. The first deceased. It was a sudden death in the duty room. Said in the newspaper, he died of a heart attack. The second deceased died at the gate of the community. He was after work. I'm going to cross the street to buy cigarettes. Finally, by a runaway bus. Covered up in a mashed meat. What really scares me is the way a third person dies. The guy lost the bet. I can't think about it, so I chose it in the middle of the night. Hanged himself in the duty room. Yes. Right where I'm on duty every night. There was once someone with a belt. Ended his own life. See here, I'm already creepy. Countless thoughts swirled through my mind. I think about the first day of the interview. Shine a light on those outlandish requests. And the cries every night. And the little girl who can predict the death of others. This place is indeed wicked. I was so scared by the thoughts in my head that I couldn't breathe. Throw away the newspaper and turn around and run. I don't even want any luggage left in the dormitory. All I want is to get out of this place as soon as possible. Didn't wait for me to run out of the gate of the community. There was a scolding voice behind him. Hey, fuck. Chin Fan, don't run. I was stunned. Looked back. It was Old Man Lu who stopped me. He ran up behind me and grabbed me by the arm. Don't say a word. Dragged me in the direction of the duty room. You stinky boy. What to run in the middle of the night? Don't say come to me for a shift. Fast in. Don't. I'm not going. There's a ghost in that place. I was terrified. Desperately struggling. Be good. Come in with me first. Old man Lu stared at a pair of dead eyes, immediately scolded. I won't, and keep struggling, but he said the next word. Shocked, the scalp flew angrily. You run now. Die faster. What? I was stupid. Looked back at old man Lu with a miserable face. From his twisted expression, I guess he must know something. The turtle is sent by God. I followed old man Lu again. Step into the duty room. The ass is not yet firmly seated in the chair. I heard old man Lu sighing. You know all of that. What are the things? I was numb with fear. Shaking his mouth, he asked rhetorically. The death of those 3 employees. And the apartment is haunted. Old man Lu stared at me with sharp eyes. You didn't come for a shift change just now. I knew it. You kid must have sensed something. I want to run away. Right. I said with a miserable face. You guessed what else to ask. Lao Lu, I have to go. I can't stay here any longer. Old man Lu's tone. It's as cold as iced tea. Do you think you can go? What do you mean? I sat back down in fear. Old man Lu had a calm face. Yin and Yang said weirdly. I'll tell you the truth. The previous 3 employees were just like you, aware of the haunting of the apartment, yelling to go. As a result, however. What did you say? I was terrified. Old man Lu stretched his face like an iron plate. So, you can't go. Once absent, this retribution will come at any time. I stopped talking, thinking in my head. A twitching jaw. It's telling my horror. Old man Lu seemed to be able to grasp everything, said leisurely. It's like this. You brought it on yourself. The system in the company. You must not have complied. The teacher told me, have you ever let someone in? I nodded numbly. Yes. There was a little girl. I put it in twice. I knew it. Old man Lu Bada Bada smoked a cigarette, said in a sullen tone. The 3 employees from before. I made the same mistake as you. Lao Lu. I still can't figure it out. Ask him, why can't you let that girl in? You tell me. Old man Lu's eyes were very cold when he looked at me. Like a snake with eyes. Subsequently, he told a story. About 7 years ago, in this apartment, one thing happened. A tragic incident that people have heard of. There was a blind woman, someone tied up in an apartment. Tragically suffered for a long time. Abuse and captivity. What about this woman? Have a disability. The eye can't see, can't run. I can only stay here. He was imprisoned for more than half a year. Afterward, this blind girl took advantage of the murderer's outing. I planned to escape through the window. As a result, I made a mistake. Fell from the 4th floor. It led to an even greater tragedy. Several floors. Hear this. My eyes widened suddenly. Another, even more terrifying thought began to emerge. Old man Lu seemed to know what I was thinking. He gave me a faint look and said, You guessed it right. The dormitory you live in. It is the place where the blind girl fell from the stairs in the first place. My head buzzed again. The body is like a soft tongue. Slide on the chair. No wonder. I said how I stayed in the house on the first day. I vaguely heard a woman crying. Feelings where I live. It's a fucking murderous house. Wrong. Soon I realized something again. Jumped up and said, What does this have to do with the little girl? The imprisoned man is obviously an adult. Don't worry. I'm not done yet. Old man Lu opened his eyes. Later, the police took away the blind girl's body. It was only found out after forensic testing. It turned out that the blind girl was before falling from the building. Pregnant. What about this woman? When dying, transferred all the resentment to the ghost. There it appeared. That little girl. As for the purpose of the little girl's return, don't think about it. Naturally, it was to find his father, so that I can take her down. A family reunion. I played a clever game. No wonder when she first appeared, will claim that he is here to find his father. I asked again how those two owners were targeted. They had all witnessed the misfortune of the blind girl, but indifferent. So in the eyes of the Ghost Eagle, they were all accomplices in the mother's death. Now the Ghost Eagle has taken two accomplices. One last wish. It's to find your biological father. Took him to hell. Old Man Lou sighed leisurely, but his eyes are getting sharper and sharper. In the end, he only said to me, "And you are the father in his eyes." Why? I had a convulsion. What does it have to do with me? At the time of the tragedy, I didn't even graduate from junior high school. What are you yelling at me? Competent. Tell the devil these things. Old Man Lou looked at me gloomily. Words in and out. Contains a lot of Sinbugen. Who let your kid live in that murderous house? It's been a long time. You're covered with the strength of a murderous house. Of course he'll think you'll be his father. My cheeks were shaking. I finally understood the ins and outs of the matter, but his heart trembled even more. Remembered. Don't run around at night. Maybe he's just squatting outside and waiting for you. Speaking of which, in the end, Old Man Lou looked down at his phone, muttering in his mouth. It's almost time. I hurriedly grabbed him by the arm, said loudly, "Don't go. I'm scared of a night shift alone." Old Man Lou couldn't laugh or cry. What are you doing? As if I wasn't afraid. I'm kind-hearted to tell you this. Don't think about it. Drag me into the water too. After speaking, he pushed me away. The smoke ran away. I was left to sit helplessly in place. I was ruined. It's true. I knew it was like this. Give more money. I can't do this job either. That night, I was in nowhere and in fear. Endure it. Every minute and every second. All days are like years. Fortunately, she didn't show up. I trembled all night. Until dawn. I just took a breath. As soon as the day dawns, the little girl probably wouldn't have appeared. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't care about waiting for Old Man Lou to come over and hand over the shift. With a head of weakness, struggled to walk back. Just walked a short distance. Then I saw a man standing in the hallway. Speak to me in a questioning tone. Shinfan, did you sneak through my drawer last night? You still have the face to say. See Xiaoguang. The fire in my heart surged up. All fear turned into resentment. Rushed up to choke him by the neck. You old bastard. You've made Lao Tzu miserable. Don't do that. Zhao Guang took a few steps back from my hand. Calm down. It's not that bad. I was forced to lie to you. Fart. What do you mean to lie to me out of necessity? I couldn't be furious. Rush up and tear him together. A few seconds later, I have been pressed to the ground by Zhao Guang. Cannot be dynamic. Calm down. Now you can only trust me. I'll show you how. I couldn't act. Despite the ruthlessness in the heart, but there's nothing you can do with the bastard. I had to say viciously. What else do you have to say? Come with me first. Zhao Guang let go of his hand, motioned with his hand for me to follow. I moved my hands and feet, reluctantly followed. Walk into the office. Zhao Guang immediately closed the door. He poured me a cup of hot water. I didn't, said coldly. There's no need for fake classes. What the hell are you going to say? Zhao Guang put down the water glass. Rub your temples to probe your breath. Then he returned to his place and said, "Something about that little girl. How much do you know?" I said coldly, "Pretty much all of it. He's a ghost eagle, right?" Zhao Guang seemed stunned for a moment. There was no positive answer. Instead, he shook his head and said, "Who told you this?" I said indifferently, "Lao Lu. He's been here for so many years. Of course I know these things." He smiled. "I don't know if it's possible." His words. Just listen to it. Don't believe it all. If you don't believe him, don't you believe you? I almost couldn't hold back the fire. Pounce on it again. See me like this. Zhao Guang hurriedly surrendered. "Yeah. You sit down first. If you have something to discuss, let's discuss." I sat down with a tiger face. 7 years ago was not true. Zhao Guang nodded and said it was true. "I'm talking about the guy who committed the crime. He's dead. Died in prison." Zhao Guang opened his eyes, said with a dark look in his eyes, "He's dead. I don't understand 10,000. Now that the murderers are dead, why does the ghost eagle continue to kill?" Zhao Guang smiled bitterly. "Ghosts harm people out of obsession and inertia. Girls are ghosts. Very paranoid. Plus she's a kid. There is no ability to distinguish between right and wrong. I only know that the man who lives in 402 is his father. But he didn't know his real father. Heroic sanctions have long been received." I was shocked. "How so?" Zhao Guang sighed and said, "Actually, it's not hard to understand. The ghost eagle was born after the death of the blind girl. She had no idea what her biological father looked like. It's just that he inherited his mother's resentment. Only then did he repeat the harm that kept harming people." I was bitter. That is, unless all the people in the apartment are dead. Otherwise the little girl will not handle. "Yes." Zhao Guang raised his head again, staring into my eyes said, "In fact, he who died at his hands. There's more to it than you know. This incident used to be quite a sensation. It has even made headlines." I closed my eyes, recall the words of the taxi driver. My heart is even more numb. Then I really didn't have a job. I asked someone to hire a gentleman. According to that gentleman, the strength of the ghost eagle is too heavy. Ordinary methods can't stop him at all. So came up with an idea. There is a gated fence set up outside the apartment building. I'm stupid. That access control alone can stop the ghost. Zhao Guang smiled bitterly and said, "Of course, it's not that simple. So I have to think of other ways. The way is to find someone who was born when the moon is sunny. It has to be a big guy with a lot of firepower. Must not be more than 30 years old. It's better if you haven't started a family yet. People born at this hour have a lot of firepower. It can suppress the anger of the murderous house to a certain extent. Because the ghost eagle's anger is all inherited from the mother. And the blind girl died in that murderous mansion. As long as it can shake the murderous house, the strength of the ghost eagle was flattened. Of course, it's not that simple. Before me, 3 employees have already put their lives in. Obviously, this approach is not entirely reliable. I see. I smiled bitterly. No wonder. Zhao Guangmian is my first request. Neither look at academic qualifications. Also don't look at work experience. After getting my birthday, immediately happy like a fool, I said numbly. Since this method is not entirely reliable, why do you want to do that? Zhao Guang's expression was more bitter than mine, said he had no choice. Although this method does not work 100% of the time. Anyway, it can play a role in getting rid of a little bit of evil. Actually, people living in 203 and 301. It could have been done without dying. if you don't open the door for him. The corners of my mouth twitched. His face was pale. It's hard to see the pulse. It's you. Didn't make it clear. Blame me. Anyway, you have to keep guarding the gates of your island. After the wee hours of the morning, you're honest. Stay in the duty room. Don't let anyone in. And don't let anyone out. Zhao Guang said, this is the only way to avoid disaster. I know. I don't have a choice. I can only nod my head stubbornly. Before leaving, I asked Zhao Guang, can you transfer me out of the dormitory? He helped his face and said no. Brother must rely on your foreign spirit to struggle. If you're afraid, you can find a group of classmates to live with you. Young people are on fire. The more the merrier. I wanted to spit in his face. Rushed to say that. He's definitely not a good guy. Returned to the dormitory. I looked at everything in front of me. Stunned to the extreme. Didn't understand the situation before. I don't think this house is anything. But now, I always feel it. It's like a wall. Little girls hung everywhere, those eyes full of resentment. I had insomnia. Obviously sleepy, but I couldn't sleep. Until 9 o'clock in the evening, I walked numbly downstairs, unintentionally. Saw Old Man Lu in the property office. What to argue with Zhao Guang? Both were thrilled. Fight for red faces. But when you see me, at the same time, he squeezed out a smile. I'm skeptical. It's a pity that the brain is already sluggish. Completely ignored. Half an hour after the end of the circle, Zhao Guang came alone. Reached for a small pair of scissors. Let me pass my hand. I don't know why. Ask him what he does. Zhao Guang said. Take it easy. After all, yes, I pulled you into the water for this. I'm going to find someone to draw an amulet for you. Just make amends. But, need to step on a little blood on your body. Oh. I'm at a loss. It felt strange that he was doing this. I haven't decided whether to say yes yet. Zhao Guang started directly. It slipped on the back of my hand. The groove. I gasped in pain. Quickly pull your hand back. Stare at you and say you're crazy. I haven't said yes yet. Zhao Guang looked aggrieved. Why don't you know what to do? After speaking. And he took my blood and left. Before leaving, I threw a roll of gauze. Let me bandage myself. This grandson is definitely sick. It was another difficult night. I could only smoke a cigarette, barely refreshed. Finally, I stayed up until 8 o'clock the next morning. Old Man Lu came to change shifts. I see that I have gauze wrapped around my hands. Very unexpected. Ask me how I got it. I got it out of my mind. Old Man Lu's eyes widened. You gave it to him. I said otherwise. Whatever. Although this guy is a bit of a look. After all, it's still here to help me. It hurts. Old Man Lu smiled. His face was covered in fine blood. Sweep it on the back of my hand. Shaking his head, he sat down in his chair. Look at his expression. It's clear that there is something not to say. But when I asked, the old man just laughed. Say. It's okay. This made me wonder. Reminiscent of yesterday evening, I saw him and Zhao Guang in the office. It's a red-faced scene. I always feel like these two people, there's a lot more to hide from me. My mind is even more messed up. When I went back to the dormitory after work, I had insomnia again. I even started hallucinating. Occasionally, the little girl appeared in the afterglow. Wait for esports to see it. Nothing. Sometimes, even if it's hard to fall asleep, I will feel it too. Someone was blowing cold air in my ear. In the air conditioning, there are also little girls mixed in. The sound of a countdown. 4 days to go. Like every part of the house, the little girls are there. 3 days to go. You have 2 days left. Ridiculously. I can't tell the difference at all. This is an illusion after all. Or is it true? All I know is, I just want to go. I had to have a nervous breakdown. And then like the 3 former colleagues. Inexplicable death. On the 18th, I took advantage of the good weather outside. I went to the pharmacy to buy Onmin medicine. One pharmacy gave me 2. I went to a lot of pharmacies. I saved enough for a dozen pieces. After going back, I couldn't wait to eat 2 slices. Force yourself to empty your brain. Lie in bed and wait for the effects to kick in. It's a pity that half an hour later, I still don't feel sleepy. Even sleeping pills didn't work. Damn it. I cheated. Straight out of bed. Kicked hard at the bedside table. I do. Just to vent your emotions. Who knows? When the bedside table falls down, an old, yellowed photograph fell out. There are 2 people in the photo. 1 man and 1 woman. The man is Zhao Guang. I don't know women, but it's pretty to look at. In the picture, Zhao Guang hugged the beautiful woman, triumphant, compared to Scissorhands. In the woman's expression, it was very depressing. There were tears on his cheeks, a frightened and hurt expression. Look at the photos. I was shocked. Because of the woman in the photo, the eyes are very hollow. There is no focus at all. Albeit in front of the camera, but it's numb. Let's look at the background again. It's actually in this room. Filmed in the living room. Wait a minute. In a trance, a terrible thought popped into my head. Old Man Lu said, the woman who was abused and imprisoned back then. It's a blind girl. The woman in the photo has hollow eyes and is not focused. Exactly this characteristic. Why? She and Zhao Guang appeared in the same frame. Could it be that it was back then? Zhao Guang also participated. The surname is Zhao. You're a virtuous king of Bhutan. I almost crushed my back molars. Viciously picked up the photo. Picked up a fruit knife. I'm going to go downstairs. Ask him for an explanation. Haven't arrived at his office yet. I happened to see Zhao Guang go out. At this time, sneaky, run to the woods behind the neighborhood. Zhao. I was furious, just about to shout. Rush over to find him desperately. Huami blurted out. I was forced back again. With my current state of mind. Not necessarily beat him. Look at his sneaky look. I was curious. Follow him cautiously. Wait until I find a place to hide. He was found burning paper. In a black plastic bag, containing a large stack of paper money. Besides, there is also a small paper figure cut out of white paper. The back of the paper figure is drawn with a red pen. All kinds of twisted and tortuous lines. It's a pity that the distance is too far. I can't see what is drawn on it. Zhao Guang burned paper. He was still muttering. Find him. You just go find him. Find him. I hid in the shadows and held my breath. Until Zhao Guang burned the paper money. After getting up and leaving, I cautiously approached there. The small paper figures that have not been completely burned yet, gouged out of the fire. Although most of the paper figures were burned, it can be vaguely intermittent. I'm still on the back of a paper man. I saw it written with a red pen. Birthday. This birthday is 8 characters. It's my old bastard. A moment of looking at the paper figures. I've understood something. Combined with what he just said, it's not hard to guess. This old boy. It's going to be my birthday. Burn to the ghost eagle. Let me be his substitute. It must be so. I finally understood. The night before yesterday. Why did he run? Take my blood. I finally figured it out. Old Man Lu, after learning about this. Why does the face appear? That ambiguous sneer. With the divergence of thinking, I've figured out more. Zhao Guang before and after. For people were hired to work the night shift. It's not at all to raise the door with us. Because that gate can't be guarded at all. He clearly intended to use our lives. To act as a substitute for the dead. In order to evade the sanctions of the Ghost Eagle. I want to come to my seniors on duty. He was killed in the same way. I couldn't help but be furious when I thought about it. I can't wait to turn back and fight with him immediately. But in the end I didn't. Instead, a bold plan was hatched. Zhao Guang can push me to be a substitute for the dead. Why can't I do it the other way around? Use the little girl to get revenge on her. This kills two birds with one stone. Not only can Zhao Guang be punished as he deserves, it also helps me to get rid of the bad luck of death. Think of these. I forcibly controlled my emotions. Put away the old crumpled photo. Pretend to run for a shift change as if nothing happened. It rained lightly again that night. This is the prelude to the appearance of the little girl. I must be crazy, looking out the window at the elm. I'm actually excited. Even expect it to appear sooner. Just after the wee hours of the morning, I heard it in the elm. There was the sound of tapping and tapping. When you look up, the girl was already standing outside the doorway. It's still the same numb, empty eyes. My heart was beating like a drum. On the one hand, it's because of fear. On the other hand, it is because of the development of the revenge plan. There was silence for almost a dozen seconds. I said, "I know you're here to kill me. But before you do it, I have something to say." He didn't speak. Hang your head and wait for the following. I said, "What if I told you? Who is your biological father? Can you let me go?" "Who is it?" Sure enough, the little girl immediately raised her tone. It becomes unusually sharp. Negotiate with ghosts. After all, it's a stressful thing. I gritted my teeth. Said, "I can tell you where he is. You can also open the door for you. There is only one condition. Leave me alone." He laughs. "How can I trust you?" I gritted my teeth. Put your heart sideways. Just take out that photo. Pull the window open a crack. Fly and throw it out. Tell him that's the evidence. The little girl picked up the picture and looked at it. The back was trembling slightly. Numbly raise your gaze. His voice was as hoarse as a night owl's grave. Where is he? I immediately revealed Zhao Guang's house number, and then trembling. The button to turn on the access control was pressed. The door slowly opened, a tooth-aching crunching sound. At that moment, I panicked. The palms and backs of the hands were full of cold sweat. I'm afraid that he won't be trustworthy. After crossing the access curfew, you'll take me first. Thankfully. I bet right. The little girl stepped into the neighborhood. They didn't even look at me. Still walked in the direction of Zhao Guang's dormitory. Look under the street lamps. The little girl was pulled into a strange shadow. I was shaking at the same time, but there were some doubts in my heart. Isn't there no shadow of ghosts? Why did he have? The thought only flashed through my mind, yet I was at the time, but I didn't think deeply. All I know is, his plan worked. When the little girl was completely out of sight, it was as if I had been drained of all my strength, but fell back into the seat. Close your eyes. A relieved smile. This night, block of flats. Incredibly calm. The light rain is sparse, and the rain does not stop. It surrounds the inside and outside of the apartment. That kind of girl's crying. But it disappeared completely. Things turned out exactly as I imagined. Soon after dawn, I got the news of Zhao Guang's death. I heard that this bastard was suffocated. Last night, before she went to bed, all windows were closed, and covered his head with a quilt, suffocated alive in the bed. The incident exploded in the apartment. Almost every resident is talking about it, marvel at how he died. It's weird. But I didn't say a word. A big living person, how could he be suffocated in the bed? Obviously, someone covered his mouth and nose. The police who arrived at Wenshuan were also puzzled. In addition to Zhao Guang's own fingerprints at the scene, there was no trace of anything. Plus, Plus, he was on his deathbed. All doors and windows were locked. Even more unlikely, there are outsiders coming in and out. The police investigated for a day. In the end, it can only be forced. This conclusion was accepted. The funeral home's car came quickly. 9 o'clock in the evening. I'm leaning against the window. See it with your own eyes. Zhao Guang's corpse. They were wrapped in white cloth, carried into the hearse leading to the crematorium. In my heart, there is no pleasure after revenge. There is no ease after liberation. My heart, still shrouded in gloom. But anyway, it's finally over. This is a place. I don't want to stay for a second. After hurriedly packing your bags, I'm on my phone, booked a guest house. Plans to leave overnight. But when I walked to the gate of the community, he saw lights in the duty room. It's still on. Old man Lu sat on that chair, laughing Erlang legs, a relaxed face. I was curious and walked up to ask, "Aren't you worthy of a whiteboard? Why haven't you left yet?" Old man Lu smiled dryly. "Didn't you come for a shift change either?" I smiled. "Tell him, you don't have to guard this broken door anymore." I thought so. Old man Lu will definitely feel stunned. Ask me why. And yet he didn't. The guy was just sitting on a recliner. I said it very easily. Yes. Got it. As if he had already mastered everything. I was particularly puzzled. Say, how do you know? Old man Lu shook his head, nervously laughing. You don't care. It's all over anyway. Didn't you want to leave this neighborhood for a long time? I took advantage of the freedom of my heart. Let's go. I vomited, subconsciously carrying a suitcase, turn around and walk outside. And walk and walk. I found out something was wrong again. The pace is getting slower. Gradually. My body was frozen in the curfew. An even more fatal question. Suddenly it flooded into the brain. That photo from yesterday. Who put it on my bedside table? In the photo, the picture of Zhao Guang and the blind girl sitting together. And who filmed it? My gut tells me I seem to be missing something. Thereupon, I turned my gaze back again, staring at the chair that was being sitting, full of comfort. Old man Lu humming a minor tune. Long Buting came to the sentence. You took that picture. Except for me. Who else? Old man Lu was obviously a little carried away, subconsciously replied. But he soon realized that he had slipped through the cracks, hurriedly shut his mouth. The smile was a little stiff. My face was completely black in an instant. I should have thought of it. There was definitely more than one blind woman imprisoned in the first place. Except for the people who were initially taken away by the police to cash the top back. There may also be households of 203 and 301. In Zhao Guang, as well as in front of me, this triumphant old man. They are gangs committing crimes. I guess it was because I noticed that my eyes were wrong. Old man Lu stood up at a loss. You go. Why do you ask this? I said. Of course I have to get things straight. The Braille thing back then. You have a part to play. That's why you know so much. Something about the Ghost Eagle. Right. What nonsense are you talking about? Old man Lu stepped back unnaturally, said in a cold sweat. It has nothing to do with me. I don't know anything. You don't know. I glared at him. That picture was you deliberately stuffed into my bedside table. Lend my mouth again. Let Ghost Eagle believe that Zhao Guang is the real murderer. When he was stupid, he left satisfied. And you can rest easy. Never worry about retaliation by the Eagle again, right? You didn't just lie to me and coaxed me to help you deceive ghosts together. You're the one who hides the most behind it. Say this. I poured almost all my strength into it. It's so ironic. Zhao Guang used me as a substitute for the dead ghost, but it was absolutely unexpected. A real substitute for the dead. Actually, it's him. Maybe I poked it in the underbelly. Old man Lu also tore through the hypocritical masquerade. Yes, and how? All these years, I've been scared of the spirit beast for so long. Isn't punishment enough? Zhao Guang is the real mastermind. He died as a matter of course. What about you? I stepped forward and pinched Old Man Lu's collar and said, "Don't forget. You too are participants. I'm an accomplice at best. And sin shall not be unto death." Old Man Lu pushed me away, said with a crazy face, "Kidnap the blind woman? It wasn't my idea at all. I just stumbled upon the secret. Zhao Guang was secretive in order to prevent me from calling police, so I was forced to marry too. I was simply forced. Then it came to light. Zhao Guang even wanted to pull me to take the blame. It's just that I'm too old, not like the mastermind. That's why I found another person. He said that everyone thought originally, just find someone to blame, send the police away, and you'll be fine. But who knows how long it won't take. The condemner died inexplicably. Later, the ghost eagle found this place again. Zhao Guang had no choice but to do so. I had to use the name of recruitment, pull people over as substitutes for the dead. But this way, it is not possible to repeat multiple uses. So, when Zhao Guang couldn't wait, when you look for me to be a substitute for the dead, Old Man Lu had already secretly calculated. Own plan. I burst into tears, a slap on Old Man Lu's face. Your plan is to shift all the blame to Zhao Guang. After letting the ghost kill him, leave satisfied, right? What's wrong with me? Old Man Lu was also angry, pushed me away hard, yelled, "Doesn't Zhao Guang deserve to die? Stinky boy." I do. It also saved you. Fart. You're doing this for yourself? I gritted my grass teeth and continued to do it. As a result, at this time, a little girl's sneer came from behind. No wonder, Mom said. There were at least 5 people who bullied her back then. One less. You didn't go. Sudden sound. It made me slap the wit. Turning his head to look, I don't know when the little girl appeared. I brushed my whole face. White became a fire. Why did you come back? Aren't you gone? Compared to my panic, Old Man Lu was frightened. Almost at the moment when the little girl appeared, she jumped nervously, shouting. I didn't stop it. Instead, they stood there stupidly, looking at the little girl in disbelief. Why didn't you leave? Mom said there was one left. So I stayed. The little girl's eyes rolled. Suddenly, he smiled at me. Incidentally, I want to say thank you too. If not you, how could I possibly find out all of them? I was completely stupid. Cold sweat fell to the ground. The little girl laughed again. Don't be afraid. I'm not a ghost. What? I glared. You're not a ghost. So how did you kill so many people? They were not killed by me. It was disposed of by my mother's own hands. The little girl shook her head and said, Mom is pathetic. Because I couldn't see it when I was alive. I don't know after death, the one who insulted himself in the first place, what it looks like. Every time, I carried her on my back. I was dumbfounded. Then you are. I'm her daughter. But I'm not a ghost. Mom, before being kidnapped by the bad guys, he has already given birth to me. She asked me to pretend to be a ghost eagle. It's to find out the identity of all the bad guys. That's exactly what happened. Trapped, I was so stunned that I couldn't come back to my senses. In silence, I smirked. How old are you? You can do so much for your mother. Behold, the little girl blinked again. In fact, I'm 14 years old. Because there is a disease, so you never grow tall. Mom is also for me. Treat the disease before making it. We'll fall into the chaos of these people. I don't know what to say about good. Laughed once. It's customary to ask your mother. But I didn't blurt out the words. Deep in the apartment building, Old Man Lou has already arrived. The heart-rending scream. A bang followed. Wait until I turn around. I happened to see a shriveled figure. From the rooftop of the apartment building, straight slammed into the concrete floor. Blood was all over the floor. It's Old Man Lou. Look at the corpse that fell into the fire. I was dumbfounded. The little girl was relieved, but his face was full of bitterness. This is the last one. Mom quickly called away. As she spoke, she covered her face, squatted down in a daze. I'm speechless. I looked at the girl next to me. Look at the concrete floor. The Old Man Lou who fell to pieces. All emotions melted into a show, a helpless sigh. The moonlight was bleak, shrouded in my face and the little girl's face. The smell of blood was in the air. But the quiet night is reflected incomparably beautifully. The cold wind blew across my face. I felt numb all over. I'm so tired that I don't want to pay attention to anything. Turn around. I was about to walk away numbly. But I feel my feet and neck. The back was straight, and the cold little hand pinched it. What are you doing? I froze there, asked. The little girl said with a smile. Mom said. She was reluctant to leave me alone. Also asked me, do you want to find a good person? Be my dad.